These are the headlines. 2 other persons die of COVID-19, including a nurse who worked for 31 years at the Georgetown Hospital. As nurses continue their protest for risk allowances and better pay, the Georgetown Hospital says it is expanding the list of those who benefit. The Cuban national accused of running a Ponzi scheme says he will repay those who invested from next Monday. A flight attendant laid off because of COVID-19 is making ends meet with a delivery service business. And in sport, a Miami Heat fan shares her thoughts on Game 3 of the NBA Finals. With the news, I'm Neil Marks. We're glad you could join us. The Georgetown Public Hospital on Monday issued a statement on the death of nurse Mark King, saying he served assiduously for 31 years. King was 55 years old and died after testing positive for COVID-19. He was in the COVID ICU since September 25th. The management, staff and nursing fraternity of the Georgetown Public Hospital said they are incredibly saddened by the passing of nurse Mark King and extended heartfelt condolences to his relatives, friends and loved ones. The hospital said Nurse King was well loved by his peers and patients and greatly esteemed for his tireless dedication to helping nurses. King last served in the Accident and Emergency Department before proceeding on retirement in July this year. The Ministry of Health on Monday afternoon confirmed that another person died of COVID-19. It means the death toll now stands at 92. The latest fatality is a 38-year-old male from Demerara, Mahaica, that's Region 4, who died while receiving care. The Ministry of Health stated that all Guyanese are reminded to observe the protocols of the COVID-19 emergency measures, which are in fact until October 31st. This order emphasizes the need for correct and consistent use of a face mask when leaving your home, the importance of maintaining the 6 feet physical distance from others, and the need for good hand hygiene to help reduce the spread of COVID-19. If anyone is displaying any of the symptoms associated with COVID-19 or need any additional information, they're asked to contact the COVID-19 hotline on 231-1166, 226-7480, or 624-6674. Approximately 40 staff of the Georgetown Public Hospital have been infected with COVID-19 since Guyana recorded its first case in March. That's March 11. However, Director of Medical and Professional Services, Dr. Fawcett Jeffrey, is adamant that more than 80% of that number did not contract the disease at the hospital. Speaking with the newsroom on Monday, he said no staff died from COVID-19 related complications. Dr. Jeffrey said while 3 former staff lost their lives to the dreaded virus, they were not at the time employed with the hospital.
Of course, from time to time, medical staff have been tested positive. Their numbers have not been excessively large. And in most of the instances where you do contact tracing, you realize that the possibility that it did not happen on the premises of the Georgetown Hospital, based on the review by the team who treats and manages the patients who are COVID infected, they have related to me that those persons, the majority, did not contract their virus at the Georgetown Hospital. So far, none of the staff employed at the GPHC have died of COVID-19. I noticed in the press and social media a few days ago, probably about a week ago, they actually said that a doctor who worked at the Georgetown Hospital died of COVID-19. That doctor was not in the employ of the Georgetown Hospital for greater than a year now. And then they also mentioned someone who may have been working with the emergency medical service where he would have been an EMT. Firstly, EMT is not part of Georgetown Hospital. And secondly, at the time of his demise, he was not even working with the EMT as we understand. He was working privately. So I don't know how it was reported that both of them were staff members of the Georgetown Hospital. The clarification is they were members of staff of the Georgetown Hospital, possibly sometime before, but not at the time of contracting COVID or dying from it.
Georgetown Public Hospital nurses continued protest action on Monday for better salaries and risk allowances. The Guyana Public Service Union representative Owen John is challenging the government to come and talk to the nurses and not sit in their offices and write statements and letters.
It is now 3 weeks since nurses in the public sector began protesting for better pay, risk allowances, and other benefits. The number of nurses protesting has gradually decreased since the government warned about the protest action continuing. This is what the protests looked like on Monday. Owen John, representative for the Guyana Public Service Union, told the media Monday at the protest that the right thing for the government to do at this time is to come out and speak with the nurses.
In the first place, the nurses out here, and we haven't yet seen a single representative of the political administration who would have come here to talk to the nurses. The nurses have real issues. This is that affecting them and their families. The union didn't go to these people. These people came to you and said, we have issues, we have concerns. So these people came to you and said, we have issues and we have concerns. If the administration feels that whatever is happening, come and talk to these people. Come and talk to them. Say, look, we hear you. What can we do for you? That's what they have to do.
According to John, the health workers have been engaged in the Ministry of Health for about 2 years about the conditions under which they work. John further sought to explain that the necessary legal proceedings would have been established before the protests. Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs Anil Nandlal on Friday last warned of severe consequences, including termination of services and criminal charges if nurses continue to illegally protest. Nandlal in a letter explained that the protest actions by the nurses are not in compliance with the Essential Services Arbitration Act and are therefore illegal.
This union is 47 years old, 97 years old. This union is advised by a lot of legal minds, right? And obviously, the union would have done what is correct.
The nurses who have been picketing have vowed to pursue various actions such as a full strike until their demands are met. GPHC on Friday last began gearing up for a crisis should nurses go on full strike. In a notice dated October 2nd and sent to all heads of department, Director of Medical and Professional Services Dr. Fawcett Jeffrey listed some important measures that will be required in anticipation of the strike action, including reducing services to only emergencies, suspending all outpatient activities, discharge patients, eliminate visitation, and provide home care plan for patients who are not severely ill. Reporting for the newsroom, I am Isanella Patwo.
Meanwhile, Director of Medical and Professional Services at the hospital, Dr. Fawcett Jeffrey, on Monday said while risk allowances are paid to staff directly dealing with COVID-19 patients at the Georgetown Hospital, this is consistently amended to include new departments. He noted that those paid risk allowances also include persons screening persons at the gate.
Everyone who has been working and are considered to be working with COVID, the COVID response, have been getting a risk allowance. So it could be from an attendant to a nurse to a technician to a doctor. All right, all the categories. But you know, of course, it's sometimes difficult to decide clear marks as to who is involved and who's not involved. So it's dynamic, it changes. It changes from time to time as we recognize another department is having a problem. I know there have been times when they have included other departments in the team of persons who get risk allowance. So it's not something that was carved in stone and you decide only you can get risk allowance. So if you recognize over time that persons, they have been having to manage COVID patients on a regular basis, then they were included in the ones who in receipt of a risk allowance.
When the newsroom returns, a group of young surgeons introduced laser treatment for kidney stones, and the leader of the alleged Ponzi scheme says he will repay investors from next Monday. You're watching the newsroom. The firm Accelerated Capital says it will begin repaying 17,000 Guyanese who invested millions of dollars with the company that has been flagged as a Ponzi scheme. The owners of the firm say they will cease all operations in Guyana until they are able to obtain a license.
Cuban national Yuri Garcia Dominguez, who is accused of operating a major Ponzi scheme and faces several charges in the court, told the media at a press briefing on Saturday last that he is willing to show and explain how the company operates. Beginning October 12, the company Accelerated Capital firm says it will begin repaying thousands of investors their capital investment. The payments will be done in a structured manner under strict COVID-19 guidelines, given the amount of persons that have to be repaid. Dominguez said a bank account was also set up at Demerara Bank through the government to facilitate payments. Dominguez and his Guyanese wife, Atika Ishmael, are currently before the court for over 80 charges of obtaining monies by false pretense. The couple was finally granted bail and released on September 25th after spending over a month in prison. Dominguez said the complaints brought against him and his wife are not true.
Accelerated Capital firm are ready to resume payments back after 36 days on hold, based on a situation that everybody knows about. There were certain matters that won't be able to discuss because we are in court matters. But I believe that our client need to know all the steps. We choose the media how to do it. On the 12th of this month, we will be resumed. The first 100 people will be paid. There's a lot of speculation that about Ponzi or this kind of in a couple of weeks, we will invite all the media houses how to explain how we operate, basically, how we are structured, and so on. How we're going to explain certain things that are unclear out there. How is the company operating based on investment? There is allegations against us, against me and my websites under false pretend we were doing fraud to clients. That's totally incorrect. That's totally because we have shown the police, we have shown all the entities doing the investigation, all the trading history and proving of that the money have been traded in the stock market.
The Cuban national said he and his wife were not aware that a license was needed to operate in Guyana, since the company already has an international license to trade from the International Monetary Fund, IMF. Meanwhile, attorney Dexter Todd said the company will be ceasing all operations and cancelling all contracts with investors until it can acquire a license to operate in Guyana.
This here is a company. The company is legitimately registered. The company has contracts with investors. The investors give their money so that their monies can be traded internationally. The license that were required under the government of under the laws of Guyana were not acquired, and for that reasons, the company must cease operations. It would be the most reasonable and prudent thing to do to exit those contracts. And that is what the legal team has been putting together.
Additionally, Dominguez further explained that since March, the company began facing a delay in payments to investors due to the collapse of the stock market as a result of COVID-19, and this is the reason that investors were not being paid. He further sought to explain that the money is withdrawn from a trading account, which takes 72 hours, then another 24 hours to exchange from Bitcoin to local currency. Reporting for the newsroom, I am Isanella Patwo.
A group of young surgeons have introduced laser treatment of kidney stones at the St. Joseph Mercy Hospital with a plan to advance surgical care in Guyana. The hospital is the first and only hospital in the country with the equipment and expertise to offer this modern method of treatment. The first procedure using this type of treatment was done last week by Dr. Rajendra Sukraj, a trained specialist urological surgeon. Dr. Sukraj, in an interview with the newsroom, explained the use of the machine.
My name is Rajendra Sukraj, and I'm a urologist. Now, as a urologist, I specialize in the treatment of the genitourinary system, as well as the male reproductive organs. First laser treatment of kidney stones in Guyana was done last Thursday, and it was done right here at the St. Joseph Mercy Hospital. This is the first time that this equipment is available in the country. This was something that I was trained to do. I was in Trinidad for 8 years. I pursued a postgraduate training in urology. It's just that we never had the equipment locally available. So this is the first time that such equipment is here and enable us to do this procedure. So it's a holmium laser. Essentially it uses a high intensity light to pulverize kidney stones. And what it permits is that the majority of kidney stones can actually be treated endoscopically, that is with the camera through the natural orifices, right? Avoiding the need for a cut on the belly or an incision on the abdomen, that's the proper term. It has a variety of applications in surgery, in urology. So while stone disease is primarily what we use it for, it can also be used to treat cancers in the urinary tract, in the bladder, in the ureter, and certain cancers of the kidney. It also has applications for other surgical specialties such as cardiothoracic surgery, gynecology. The first case that we did was a 34-year-old woman who had a 1.1 centimeter stone in her kidney. Right? We were able to treat her in the morning, and by evening she was back home. Right? She would have been able to return to work the following day if she needed to. Traditionally, this was something that would have required an open operation, 2 to 3 days in hospital, and then a few weeks at home recovering from the operation. While this is really a small step for urology in the world, this is a service that has been available for decades around the world. This is actually a game changer for the treatment of kidney stones in Guyana, simply because the majority of patients can now be treated without the need for a cut on the belly. Kidney stone is very, very common. It is one of the most common conditions that we see, and it is about 11% of the population will be diagnosed with kidney stones in their lifetime. But it is disappointing that, decades after this technology is available worldwide, that it is now coming to Guyana. But I'm also, pleased to be able to advance surgical care in the country, right, and to be a part of that process. It was a group initiative. It was done so we have a business collaboration that we call Surgical Associates Guyana, and this is a group of young, fully trained, highly skilled and motivated Guyanese surgeons, and it was actually born out of the recognition that the Guyanese people deserve a better quality of surgical care than is currently offered to them. And a lot of times we have the skill set and we also have the equipment. It's just that for whatever reasons these services were not being offered. So that Surgical Associates Guyana grew out of that recognition and that need for a higher quality of surgical care in this country.
Although its executive members met at the weekend, the Alliance for Change is yet to resolve its differences with the Partnership for National Unity over the vice chairmanship of the Region 4 Regional Democratic Council. The AFC issued a statement on Sunday night in which it insisted that APNU breached the Commingsburg Accord. Kurt Campbell reports.
Today marks exactly 1 week since we've been following the developments related to the fallout between the Alliance for Change and its coalition partner, a Partnership for National Unity. Following a meeting of its executives on Sunday, the Alliance for Change said it was still looking at ways to resolve the issues at hand. The party announced the establishment of a special committee to provide guidance and recommendations to the party on the continued effectiveness of the Commingsburg Accord, which is the binding agreement between the two sides. The committee, which is expected to submit a report within 10 days, is also tasked with reviewing the mechanisms to effect any future agreements with the APNU. The latest fallout surrounds the election of PNC member Samuel Sandy to the vice chairman position on the Region 4 Regional Democratic Council.
Congratulations, Mr. Sandy, as vice chairman of the Region 4. Please take a seat at the head table.
Immediately after that election, we heard of the resignation of David Patterson from the Alliance for Change as its General Secretary and talks of rift between the two sides. Patterson also stated his intention to resign from Parliament. The AFC had called the emergency meeting of its executive members after the APNU failed to honor the agreement by allowing an AFC councillor to secure the vice chairman position in 2 of the 3 regions the coalition won at the March 2nd, 2020 elections. While this materialized in Regions 7, the AFC failed to get the APNU support in Region 4, prompting the resignation of David Patterson. The AFC in its latest statement said APNU breached the Commingsburg Accord. The AFC said Patterson's resignation from the party in Parliament was also discussed at the meeting, and the members unanimously urged that Patterson reconsider his position. There are talks that some members of the party have called for the AFC's withdrawal from the coalition. Patterson has not said whether he will withdraw the resignation. Last week, we had statements coming out from several members of the APNU faction of the coalition. PNC's executive member, Dr. Karen Cummins, sought to suggest that the AFC got its fair share, with just 1 vice chair of the 3 regions when the 70-30 arrangement is examined.
This is a movement. We are moving forward. So you come with us, we're going forward. If you're not with us, you stay at the back. But like everything else, we want to come together. We, as I said before, we united we stand, divided we fall. So we don't have time for tribble and cavil and the devil, using the devil advocate to disturb us, because there's a lot of distractions here. All right, and if I can recall, I wasn't there in the Cummings Accord after my name, but it's 70-30. And I mean, we have 1-3 regions, and 1/3, 70-30 is like 1/3, 2/3. And so 1/3 of 3 is 1. So if they have, at least they have Region 7. Bartik, I think they have the vice chair for that. So at least 70-30, we still maintain our 70-30%.
Later, we spoke with the chairman of Region 4, Daniel Siram, who cast the last vote that allowed Mr. Sandy to become the vice chair. He said he knew of no such agreement.
On the day of the voting, I had not seen any agreement to such an extent.
And you've not heard of any?
No.
Opposition leader Joseph Harmon, who had ordered an investigation, said that there was a breakdown in communication that led to Mr. Sandy being elected instead of an AFC councillor.
The agreement was between the coalition agreement between the APNU and the AFC, and that the requirement for communication of that agreement to the parties on the ground was the responsibility of the 2 elements in that agreement. So it was in fact a requirement that the councillors on the ground be advised about this agreement. My understanding is that there might have been some breakdown in communication, but that is a matter which is being investigated as well.
Harmon said the leaders of the 2 sides are expected to meet and will decide the way forward. He could not say if the election of Mr. Sandy would be reversed. I'm Kurt Campbell for the Newsroom.
As a result of a petition to the President, the agriculture-based communities of Little Baibu and Big Baibu in the Mahaika Creek are to receive electricity from the power grid for the first time. The residents have also asked for internet access, which is also being looked at. Officials from the Guyana Power and Light Company and Minister within the Ministry of Public Infrastructure, Deodat Indar, at the weekend visited the communities and committed to addressing their issues.
The residents of Little Baibu and Big Baibu at Mahaika River East Coast Demerara will be afforded access to electricity for the first time. This followed a petition to the President, especially since teaching is delivered through radio, television, and online platforms. During a visit to the area on Sunday, Minister within the Ministry of Public Infrastructure, Deodat Indar, said the officials from the Guyana Power and Light Company were instructed to look into the matter.
We are committing to providing electricity to the area that is out right now. Over that one side, we will try to work to see what mode we can get it over there. But I have instructed GPL to look to this area because we understand that people suffer for too long here.
Residents currently rely on solar systems and generators for power, but these do not provide stable electricity throughout the day. GPL plans to conduct assessments in the areas to determine how soon electricity could be installed and the requirements to install streetlights in the area. Indar said residents' internet needs will also be addressed.
Some of the residents raised issues pertaining to the road in a bad state, pertaining to the bridge that they have to cross, that even if they're doing construction, they can't get sand and all sorts of building material to their place of residence. We have to look into that, apart from the electricity issue. Then there are other issues with crime. They said people come to thief their animals and so on, and there are no street lights and so on. And other issues they raise about internet in the area. They don't have any internet, so they can't have access to get their children to learn anything. So those are some of the issues that we have to address in the area.
More than 1,200 residents will benefit when the communities receive power. Meanwhile, Chairman of the Regional Democratic Council of Region 5, Mr. Vikshan Ramphal, said farmers are now in a better position to have the main access road to their farmlands developed. He noted that some funds have to be set aside in Budget 2020 for remedial works on the Dihu Branch Road leading into Little and Big Bayabu, as well as several roads in Region 5. Bibi Katun, Newsroom.
When the newsroom returns, a flight attendant laid off due to COVID-19 turns to the delivery service business. This is the newsroom. We're glad you could stay with us. Airlines all across the world were left largely idle by the coronavirus, forcing the retrenchment of large numbers of workers who were forced to find alternative employment. Renald Cameron found himself among that lot. Once part of the in-flight crew for Liat Airlines, he is now the owner of his own business, Cameron's Fast Carriers. Cameron was stranded in a hotel room in Barbados when he received the letter from Liat that he was being laid off. He sat down with the newsroom and spoke of how that pushed him to accomplish the biggest feat of his life.
Renald Cameron, and I'm the owner of Cameron's Fast Carriers. Well, truth be told, the moment I got a temporarily laid off letter from the company, from Leah that is, it was explicitly clear that I would not have been earning for however long that I would have been laid off. And that is a huge spoke in the wheel for me. Having 2 kids, and at that time I had another one on the way who unfortunately passed away. There was a certain level of aggression, innate aggression, that I just needed to get something off the ground. And like I said before, I was toying with tons of ideas, but this one stood out. Good morning, Cameron's Fast Carriers. Sure. Yes, ma'am. What is your name? Contact number for you? He should be there in about 20 minutes. Is that okay with you? Okay, great. No problem. Thank you for calling. Based on the situation where persons were locked down at home, there was room for everyone that wanted to be a part of the market, the delivery market, or have a delivery business. Yes, initially I thought about the competition and how many competition there is in the market, but as I set foot in it, I recognized that, hey, in as much as there's seasoned competition, being a newbie, I still made ends meet. I ensured that my efficiency was on point. I ensured that I answered all my calls, and when the phone rings, I'm always available to answer. The response, my initial response from the Guyanese population, it started off slow as expected as a new business. But like I said, we grew from strength to strength and we continue to grow. At this point, I must admit that we would have lost some, but we would have gained more. And I think for me, that is a big plus for me, the owner of Cameron's Fast Carriers. And I use that to prove to myself that I can do good, I can do better things, I can improve my business. And I've seen improvements from mid-July to now. Currently, we have 4 riders. 2 of them have their own motorcycles, and 2 of the motorcycles belong to me. We also utilize a car, the services of a car, because in the instance of inclement weather, we definitely need to use a car. We service Central, Greater Georgetown, and Linden and Berbice as well. But Linden and Berbice, we do those twice per week. Tuesdays and Thursdays for Linden, Mondays and Fridays for Berbice. And the cost for that is $1,500. Central Georgetown cost is $400. Greater Georgetown, the prices start to increase a little bit depending on where the pickup or drop off is. When we started off with the basics. We started off with food, grocery shopping, water, gas delivery, and of recent, I realized we're doing a lot more than that. We're taking people's cars to the car wash, right? We're paying bills. In addition, we sell SIM cards to Digicel and top up for Digicel. So at any given time you can meet any of our couriers and they will have SIM cards available to you for sale. And like I said, as the days go by and as calls come in, we get different requests from customers and we try to satisfy them as much as possible. So once a new request comes in, we jot it down and we definitely work on making that request better and formalizing that request. Amount of calls that we get per day, on average, currently we get like 50 calls a day, on average. We're still working on getting that to a higher number, but like I said, with focusing on efficiency and wanting efficiency to be the greatest selling point of this business, I'm looking currently to widening my employment base so that I'm a labor force so that I can have more riders to satisfy more calls. I was asking myself, why didn't we do this business pre-COVID? I mean, this business would work. It is always going to work. People always has needs, food delivery needs, and not all the food joints have their designated delivery personnel that is employed by that company. So a lot of them outsource the work. So yes, there is always going to be a need for this type of business post-COVID. I definitely didn't do it alone. I had the support of my co-workers who were equally in lockdown as myself, and my fiance. God was the main pillar of all of this, because when I felt down and when I felt out and I felt like as if it may not work, he ensured that every night I laid in my bed, there was that hope that he placed upon me. When all this is for you and you will make it happen. So with that, I got the inspiration, I got the confidence, I got the support, like I said, from my fiance, my parents, and my family generally. Everyone supported me, my friends, they all supported me with this idea. I did a survey prior to launching the business, and I got tremendous support on the survey to get ideas as to what I should do and where I should do it and that kind of thing. Still using the survey data up until today, but yes, everybody pitched in the way they ought to, and I'm thankful for the support and continued support, the support then and the continued support.
When the newsroom returns, the financial, weather and bridge reports along with sports. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching the newsroom. It's time for sport. The Minister, Charles Ramson, will this weekend commence another round of meetings with local sports associations, this time in a much more formal way. The Minister made the revelation while giving an update on initiatives being undertaken by his ministry.
Immediately after assuming office in early August, the Minister met with representatives of several local associations, federations and boards who shared their plans, challenges and success stories. Ramson Jr. said that the follow-up meetings are geared to build on those previous engagements. He said, and I quote, "And that is where I intend to sit with them and to plan in a very structured way, PowerPoint presentations and things like that. We're going to have working sessions and plan with them how it is we're going to advance some of the discussions we had initially in a much more formalized way." End quote. Ramson Jr. said the aim is to always keep the associations in the loop with regards to development initiative being undertaken by the ministry. He said, and I quote, "I don't want our ministry to operate in a vacuum. Government is all across the lives of people, and so ministries themselves, even though they are responsible for territory, meaning they have specific responsibility to execute, it shouldn't operate in silo, and the President is very clear about the vision and the direction for the government and the country in general, and I'm just part of that." End quote. The Minister has held consultations with the Guyana Cricket Board, the Guyana Football Federation, the Basketball Association and Federation, the Athletics Association of Guyana, the Guyana Tennis Association, the International Karate Organization, the Guyana Cycling Federation, the Guyana Squash Association, the Guyana Amateur Powerlifting Federation, the Guyana Weightlifting Association, the Guyana Bodybuilding and Fitness Federation, the Georgetown Cricket Club, and local sport journalists. Cricket news now. The new West Indies women's head coach Courtney Walsh is hopeful that he can hold a camp very soon so he can make a better assessment of his resources at hand. Walsh wants more women's cricket being played in the region, but with COVID-19 still being a fluid issue, he hopes more camps can be held to spot talent. Akeem Green reports.
Last Thursday, Cricket West Indies announced the legend as the new head coach of the women's team. Speaking at the virtual briefing on Monday, the head coach said he wants to get down to business very soon and will be meeting with the CWA hierarchy on Tuesday to plan a way forward.
I'm meeting with the CEO tomorrow to have a general chat with him and the director of cricket to find out what's possible, what's not possible, so get a good feel of what can be done. But for me personally, what I would love to be able to do is to sort of get a camp going at the earliest convenience for everybody involved, so I can start looking at the players, because I don't want to just take word of mouth from other people. I want these players that I want to have a person look at myself, see where they're at, and get a good guideline or a gauge as to where they can go, and who we need to sort of along with, who we need to sort of give specifics stuff to go and do, so we can get a little bit more technical with some of the players as well. So I don't know how soon we can have that in place in terms of that camp, but that would be the first thing on my agenda, to try and get a camp or two before we go back out to play again.
While not revealing specifics of his plans, he hinted that due to COVID-19 preventing cricket being played, there is a strategy of keeping camps within the territories to spot talent. Ideally, the aim would be more female cricket at all levels.
And the talent is out there, we get a chance to see them, have a look at them, encourage them to play, and to try to get the pool a bit bigger, because if we can get more women playing in the region, at the regional level, then obviously that's a big plus for Cricket West Indies and for us to have a bigger pool to look at. And sometimes you can go scouting or talent hunting and stuff and do things like that to get the players out. Obviously you want to see them in a match situation, but if that's not going to happen, then we might have to look at, taking a core of coaches to the Windward Islands, to Jamaica, to Barbados, just and try to have a fun date to see if we can spot any talent. So there's obviously things we need to look at, but obviously if we can get more cricket played in the region, on the regional level for the ladies, then that would be a big plus as well.
Though it was a disastrous tour of England as the ladies lost all 5 20 internationals, Walt still believes there is good enough talent within the region to challenge for silverware.
I think they can. I think we have a good solid sort of base of players. Obviously we have to perform, and once you're on the international circuit, that's why I keep using the word consistency. Those teams are those players that perform consistently, get reasonably good results. So that's what we have to get back to doing. When we were doing well and winning competitions and getting into semi-finals, it wasn't just one person. The team was performing. Yes, one individual or two individuals might lead the charge, but they were getting good support from the others. So that's something we have to ensure we get back on track with. The talent pool is good enough, but hard work has to be put into place to ensure that we're ready. As you mentioned, there's a World Cup coming up. The qualifiers are going to be there. And we have to be ready for those, because those are the big stage occasions that you want to be ready for and to perform on.
The West Indies cricket legend will lead the preparation and development of the women's team at least up until the end of 2022, including competing in the next International Women's World Cup, that is the 5th over World Cup, and ICC Women's T20 World Cup. For the newsroom, Akeem Green.
Some basketball news now. Jimmy Butler starred as the injury-hit Miami Heat took Game 3 of the NBA Finals against the Los Angeles Lakers 115-104. Butler's triple-double of 40 points, 13 assists and 11 rebounds helped lead the Heat to victory, and they now trail 2-1 in the best-of-7 series. No NBA team has come back from a 0-3 series deficit to win in 7 games, but the Heat were facing that prospect when they squandered a 14-point third-quarter lead. But the talismanic Butler was able to haul them over the line, becoming the 3rd player in finals history to score 40 points in a triple-double after opponent LeBron James and Lakers legend Jerry West. James led the way for the Lakers with 25 points, 10 rebounds and 8 assists, but Anthony Davis was in foul trouble early on and managed just 15 points. Meanwhile, Newsroom's Akeem Green and Heat superfan Michaela Remix Cameron review Game 3 and look ahead to Game 4 on Tuesday.
Jimmy Butler's 40-point triple-double The Miami Heat are back in it. It seems to have been a sweep by all of the major pundits. Michaela, you must be extremely happy.
I am more than excited. Last night's game was phenomenal. There were lots of points during the game where I was definitely a bit nervous because, once the Lakers get into it, that's it. But last night, the Heat just proved that they're in it to win it. And yes, they may be the underdog, but it doesn't matter because they have the spirit and they're bringing the heat, pun intended.
Jamie in particular, you were very impressed, and he seemed extremely hyped after the game. He seems to want to do more of what he did last night.
The triple-double is fantastic, and I love the old school style of play that he employed last night. Driving to the basket, shooting in the paint, and just bringing those buckets. I mean, he is called Jimmy Buckets after all, and it was just a phenomenal, impressive game by Jimmy Butler, and involving the rest of the team as well. I mean, the triple-double speaks volumes, and yeah, I'm a huge fan of Jimmy Butler, and he fits perfectly within the Miami Heat organization.
Young Hero, in the absence of Gorgon and Bam with their injuries, Young Hero, one of the youngest players to be a part of an NBA Finals, he really stepped up 17 points last night. You must be impressed by him with his composure, and hopefully to get more from him going down the line.
He's 20 years old. I don't know if you guys, I'm sure everyone in the basketball world knows that, but anyone else watching, this young dude is 20 years old. Think about what you were doing at 20. He has stepped up to the plate. Last night's game just proves to us that Hero's here to stay. And again, he's a perfect fit for the Miami Heat organization. And I love the end where, he made that shot and then he did the thing with the lip. I can't do it, but it just, it just proves to me once again that yes, he's young, he's, now getting his groove in, but he knows what he's doing and he's here to stay. And I cannot wait to see what Hero does in the next 5-10 years.
The Miami Heat management seemed to got a better grip of their defending last night. You think maybe that is a method that they could use going forward to, I guess, Heats in 6, I guess that's the team on social media.
Yeah, I hope that it's a series that goes to 6 or 7, and I really thought that the Lakers were going to come out last night and continue their amazing shooting that they performed in game 1 and game 2, but last night the Heat did what they had to do, and I love that Eric Spoelstra employed a different tactic, driving to the basket, getting those fouls early on, getting Anthony Davis in trouble early on, and it really helped to prove that once you play as a team, that anything is possible. And last night, the Heat did just that.
Tomorrow, obviously you're hoping that they could square the series. Any small pointers you would say if you were on that management team, you would tell the guys in Butler, you need to do this and hopefully you can square the series?
I would tell them to do exactly what they did last night. Keep driving to the basket, keep getting those early fouls, getting the main players, LeBron and especially Anthony Davis, in foul trouble. And, just employing making sure that the rest of the team is just as involved as the main players. The 2 starters are out, but it doesn't mean that this is over. And last night just proves that, because LeBron was getting into it. And that's when I got nervous. And I was like, oh gosh, here we go. Because at the end of the day, LeBron is the GOAT of the league currently, not overall, but currently. And, we needed to stop him, and that's exactly what we did. We needed to stop Anthony Davis, and that's exactly what we did. And I hope that they continue that tactic in tomorrow's game.
Some news now out of the IPL. Delhi Capitals are top of the point standings after a comprehensive 59-run win over Royal Challengers Bangalore on Monday in Dubai. Capitals made 196 for 4 from the allotted 20 overs, with Marcus Stoinis hitting 53 not outs of 26 balls. Prithvi Shaw made 42, Rishabh Pant 37 and Shikhar Dhawan 32. Bowling for RCB, Mohammad Siraj had 2 for 34. In reply, RCB lost both openers and AB de Villiers in the power play, leaving too much for Virat Kohli to do. He did manage the top score though with 43, but RCB were kept to 137 for 9. Kagiso Rabada was on top of his game yet again, claiming 424, while Anrique Norke and Akshar Patel had 2 wickets each. Tomorrow, IPL action continues with Mumbai Indians playing Rajasthan Royals at 10 hours. And Guyana Amazon Warriors batsman Chandapal Hemraj struck 6 sixes in an over in the U.S. Minor Cricket League at the weekend. The left-hander tore into former USA under-19 leg spinner Vivek Narayan on his way to 67 off 28 balls, but New Jersey's Somerset Cavaliers, who defeated the Philadelphians by 14 runs after posting 132 for 9. His innings included 10 towering sixes. Hemraj also made 37 off 16 balls in Somerset Cavaliers' game against Empire State Titans, in which they piled up 272 for 4, with Saeed Abdullah and Aaron Jones both getting hundreds in a partnership of 215. Somerset Cavaliers won the game by 119 runs.
That's our broadcast this evening. I'm Neil Marks. We're glad you could join us, and we'll be back here tomorrow. You can get the latest breaking news and sport at newsroom.gy. You can also follow us on Facebook and on Twitter.